So in a move that doesn't really make things easy, that track is closed. So detour options, not any of those. Yeah. Well.
So that's settled, we leave the Beverages Station campground. After briefly heading up to the Bend campground, as that one has a toilet, we then head back down to where Pheasant Creek Track branches off from this road. Except it's not quite where the map puts it, as it's been redirected around this paddock. So we proceed down the bumpy road, and then, yeah, that is the downside of these antennas. That does eventually happen if you mount them on the bull bar. I'm not devastated though, the actual antenna element's only about $50, and we bought this one in 2018. It's been on 2 vehicles for tens of thousands of kilometres, a few thousand of them off-road. And don't ask me how many times it's hit foliage. I'd even normally have a spare one in the back, but it's been borrowed for the workbench at home. So we head further round to Pheasant Creek Track, and then it's through the Buckland River, not Pheasant Creek. And then, as we ascend the track, we come across another one of these.
Copy the forestry crew.
After a few goes, still no reply. Deja vu. And then there was this section. Now at the start this looks somewhat steep, and to gauge how steep it actually is, always look at the trees. But then as we continue up the ridge, it becomes even more relentlessly steep, with some added loose rock here to join the party. Eventually, Pheasant Creek Track becomes Guns Track, and then we reach a peak on the Guns Range at 1,460 meters altitude. For a few seconds there was an amazing view here, but then this thick fog blew in, rapidly appearing to completely block it out. And then there's the descent. There were 2 people coming the other way, so we'll let them up first. After that, it's our turn to descend. A left turn on Guns Track to the Guns Track, rather than going right, which would also put you on the Guns Track. The track on the right goes up to another summit, Mount Buckland, on which there's a helicopter pad, but we continue along the ridgeline. And then we head down this somewhat sketchy looking descent. The object of this is for your vehicle to descend the hill, without the inadvisable situation of the top level of the track also descending with you. That said, you may well find on a hill like this that the rear of your vehicle wants to overtake the front. This, of course, should not be allowed to happen. And if you think that last one looked sketchy, get a look at this one. That said, this one only looks worse, as the rock has been packed down significantly more. Followed by a climb back up to another peak, pretty much exactly the same height as the first one. This one has a name though, Mount Sugarloaf, not to be confused with the one in New South Wales, or the one in the Cathedral Ranges, the one near Mount Leura, the one in Kinglake National Park, the one in Mount Buangor State Park. Oh, and that's just the ones in Australia. One final steep descent, and then we find these two at the Great Alpine Road. Thought they were just airing up, but that looks suspiciously like a drive shaft on the road. They said everything was good though, so we carried on. The steep climb sign on the sealed road was a little amusing to us. Despite the sign, we did not engage low range. And a right turn onto the very scenic Dargo High Plains Road. This little spot, close to the summit of Mount Freezeout, which appears to be an appropriate description of staying the night there according to others' reports. A good spot for lunch, but then we continue further south. And here it is, the Blue Rag Range track. An iconic staple of the high country, a common entrant in top 10 lists, so expect there to be traffic. I'm glad it's still open. Some of the other staples, like the Ingegoodby track, have been closed due to flooding, so that one is unfortunately off the list. One of the things that's really different when driving out here is that when you ascend a hill, there's just so many spots where you can see exactly where the track you're on goes. Compared to driving in dense forest where you can see to the next corner, or on the Canning Stock route where most of the time you can just see to the next dune, here you can see quite a long way out. Part way up, the difficulty increases a bit, with no overrun on either side, and much looser rock on the slopes. Although most of this isn't particularly difficult. The climbs are steep and the track is narrow. The difficulty, of course, occurs when you have an oncoming vehicle in a very inconvenient spot. In places though, some of these humps have been dug out by wheel spin. We made pretty good progress up the hill, catching up to the vehicle in front, but we kept our distance in case they had to back down again and give something another go. The best, of course, is saved for last. The hardest point is that very last climb to the summit. It's a somewhat loose, slippery and shaly scramble all the way to the top. Avoid wheel spin on this section, because it's infamous for slicing the hell out of your tyres if you do. On the summit, there's little more than a trig point and an amazing view. And then, just to head down, something with its own challenges. Nothing, of course, not encountered on the way up, but this time gravity's working with you, not against you. Do note that I said with you, not for you there. You've got to dispose of all that extra energy somehow. A little further down Dargo High Plains Road is Lanky Plains Hut. Lanky Plain Hut was originally built by the Country Roads Board when they were resurfacing the nearby road, rather than it originating from mountain cattlemen. These days, it's used by hikers heading out to Mayford via the Kingspur Track. And then we come across some cattle being driven the traditional way, on horseback. We were waved up, and I believe the plan was to get the cattle to go to either side around us, but the cattle didn't really seem to care either way. Further down, we turned off onto Hibernia Road. From here, it's a left turn down Conway Track, emphasis on the down. This track descends towards Wonnangatta Road, losing nearly 750 metres in altitude over just 3.7 kilometres. Now this is definitely one you're going to want to use low range and engine braking for the entire descent. Ride the brakes all the way down this one, and you may well not have any left by the time you get to the bottom. The purpose of these humps on the track, if you are unaware, isn't just to make the track significantly more annoying. If they weren't there, rainfall would flow straight down the track, getting faster and faster as it travels, like, say, your vehicle if you were to lose the brakes. This increased speed dramatically increases the rate at which the water does erode the track, and would render a track this steep impassable in pretty short order. With the humps in place, the water is just redirected to the side where it's taken care of by the foliage. And at that point, we're on Wonnangatta Road, ready to begin the next part of our adventure. Given where we are now, some of you know what's coming. Of course, those dark clouds are looking increasingly worrying. Weather forecast says no rain's expected for several hours though. Sure hope it doesn't start raining. Anyway, that's enough foreshadowing. Until next time, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and see you next time.